Hello everyone. I wore it the other way around. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Smashi Business Show. Today is Friday, October 31, Halloween time. I'm Abdul Majid Aman.
And I'm Werd Badawi, and welcome to this Smashi Business Show. So for today's show, we're going to discuss FII.
And Halloween.
It has just concluded in Riyadh with
and
Syria's market making a comeback and Saudi policy shift.
And Halloween.
And Saudi Arabia right now has a lot of changes. In fact, they are planning to refocus their $925 billion sovereign wealth fund after Gigaproject delays.
And Halloween. I'm just kidding. But I think Halloween is a big event. Have you seen all the... Very interestingly, you go to any shop right now, you go to Carrefour, you go to any market, big market, small market, you go to Daiso, Miniso, it's full of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think they just store it back and bring it back, right? I don't think they buy new stuff every year.
Honestly, that's a good point.
Yeah,
they probably
and if they
keep
sell,
it in their
they sell.
storage rooms.
So it's going to be a big inventory that they've bought already, and every day they just bring it out, dust it off, and I'm like, thank you very much, buy it again. But I don't think it's such a big event as Black Friday or Christmas. I don't think they're going to do billions of sales, but millions, I think, are good enough. But yeah, let's move on to the stories. Just a little bit of fun since it's Halloween. You should see the Love in Dubai morning show. It was more sparkly than this. But yeah, the Future Investment Initiative concluded its third day in Riyadh. Back to the serious topics, spotlighting Syria's economic reopening and Saudi Arabia's evolving financial strategy. Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara, one of the most important talks that I heard in this FII, was invited global investors to join the country's rebuilding efforts, with major hotel groups such as Hilton, Accor and Rotana reportedly by the National exploring new hospitality projects in the country.
As Syria restores stability and reopens air routes, investors are eyeing opportunities in tourism, infrastructure, and real estate, though security and financing risks remain. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund revealed that it paid $200 million in management fees last year, investing 3 billion riyals in boutique funds.
And the move underscores the PIF's broader diversification drive, spreading exposure across asset classes and global markets while bolstering Riyadh's position as a financial hub. Deputy Governor Yazid Al-Humaid highlighted the manager's GATE platform. It's a new platform which aims to attract top global managers and develop the kingdom's asset management ecosystem.
And PIF Governor Yasir Al-Rumayyan said a new strategy for NEOM is being finalized, refocusing on 6 core sectors, including tourism, clean energy, and logistics. He emphasized selective investments and greater private sector participation to ensure fiscal discipline and long-term sustainability across Saudi Arabia's gigaprojects.
And lastly, the Capital Market Authority also announced plans to ease foreign ownership limits, allowing direct participation by global investors and reviewing the existing 49% cap. The reforms aim to boost liquidity and deepen Saudi markets, further strengthening Riyadh's position as a regional and global financial hub. This, we reported about it, and I think, if I remember correctly, the markets jumped nearly 15% when this move was just reported, not even announced, reported. And by the end of this year and the start of new year, they're going to put out a whole plan how foreign investors can buy in more than 49% now, how they can come in and grab a bigger, larger share of the capital market. That is Tadawul in Saudi Arabia, and they have a small market cap market, which is Nomu. So all the 2 markets will become open to foreign investors, and the Syria story is more interesting.
It's so interesting. The fact that you have hotels like Rotana and Hilton that are open into expanding into Syria. But I have to say it though, I have to call it. I think that the UAE billionaire Khalif Al-Habtour, the Al-Habtour Group chairman, honestly called it first. He called it first. He realized the potential, and this is why we saw that he immediately went into Syria. He made a very grand gesture infrastructure. I believe he invested into one of the oldest mosques in Syria, and he said that he's going to be committing investments there. And now I see that that's probably a part of expanding his metropolitan hotel, and there's definitely more to come. I think for me, I'm interested to see if Al-Walid bin Talal, the Saudi prince, who is the cousin of the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, I'm interested to see if he will actually take 4 seasons to Syria.
Yeah.
I think that one would also be a really exciting development here.
Yeah, and all these hotels going means there's going to be tourism now. The point that we made, that safety and security, and who will invest in those hotels? The hotels directly, will the banks support them? Will Syrian government take some part in building those hotels or financing them so they can open tourism? It's a big opportunity for them. But interestingly, we talked about the Syrian president's talk, and the comment that he made, that we are rebuilding through investments and not through aid and all that. And I always go back to Word's point. She always makes this point that countries should not rely on NGOs and aids and all that.
Aid is dead aid.
Yeah,
it
and
is.
it doesn't help you because you take it, you spend it, and then you're left with nothing. And Amir al-Shara was like, yeah, teach me to fish, don't tell me how to eat it. Teach me to fish. So it was a very interesting talk, and then this update on it, the National went on and talked to the hotel guys, and they were like, yeah, we're planning to build it. So it's very interesting. The whole event was very interesting. The summary of it is, we were talking before the show, that some of the rooms, it's not only the main room. Usually we focus on the main room. It's called the plenary A stage. It's very big. The big guys talk there. But in the morning, Rich came and I was like, there's labs also. And Mohammed Al-Abbar was in one of the labs. He was speaking there. We didn't see him on the main stage. Funnily, he was at SIF. He was at the Reuters Next event,
conference.
main guy. But here he was put in a lab.
I think because it's for the Saudis. This
Yeah.
one's definitely for the
but
Saudis.
I remember Rich told us that ADNOC chairman was there, His Excellency Sultan Al Jaber was there. So a lot of people from UAE this year were there. A lot of startup founders, a lot of guys who work here, a lot of Augustus Media people were there. But the whole event gave a good vibe. But a lot of people were questioning, why wasn't oil mentioned? Why wasn't NEOM mentioned a lot? But then Yasser Al-Rumayyan, in his opening, he didn't talk about NEOM a lot. But then on day 3, he came out and he was talking about it, the 6-point plan that we're looking at, that NEOM is a part of still PIF's one of the grander Giga projects and plans. But right now, I think they're more focused on the now. And the now is AI. So their data,
That's
infrastructure-wise, they're building data centers. Tariq Amin and Humane were the main highlight. To be honest, I was joking with Rich that it should be called HII this year, Humane Investment Initiative. All the deals signed were by them. We were expecting more than $70 billion because last year was $70 billion. Richard ITS said that we will want more than that. I didn't see a lot of investment deals announced. There were some, but not too many.
Maybe because they're actually already signed. I think that's what's going on here. But just on the topic of you mentioning that there were a lot of people from the UAE who attended the conference, whether it was Sultan Al Jaber or Mohammed Al Abbar, there's a specific reason that we're seeing these UAE billionaires going to FII. There was something that Tariq Amin said that really stood out to me. He's Jordanian American, by the way, and it's the fact that Humane is trying to become the world's 3rd largest infrastructure provider in the world, straight after China and the US.
Yes.
Now, a while ago, Rip shared this video from Hussein Sajwani, the Damac Properties billionaire, on our page, and he said something so interesting, Majid. He said that right after the UAE, the 2nd most important market to me is Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And he said that we are building data centers in Dammam. And by the way, that video was not from this year. It was from last year or the year before. So this was before we heard of the entire $20 billion ordeal in America. So the fact that he's been investing in data centers in Saudi Arabia, and then you have his deal with Donald Trump come along, $20 billion into data centers there. I think that the reason why we're seeing these UAE billionaires in Saudi Arabia is because Saudi Arabia has like such ample land and such ample resources to actually develop AI.
Yeah.
I think that especially at this time that we live in, where AI is becoming so revolutionary, that if you don't catch up, if you don't have the resources, you're just going to look like a loser. So I think this is why at this time it's so important to come together with a company like Humane. And I think what's so crazy to me is the fact that it's called a startup. It's called a startup, and it already has its own $10 billion AI fund, and they've had so much progress. They've developed a laptop, and I just think the entire thing is just absolutely crazy.
The speed that they're going at, to be honest, it shows. I think I remember this quote which Rich sent, which he heard Tariq Amin saying, very interesting, that about the money. So he doesn't care about the money right now. PIF and Aramco signed a partnership. Aramco became a minority investor. So if Humane already had like a boatload of money there through PIF, now they have Aramco. They have the two biggest, one is a sovereign wealth fund giant and one is a state-backed oil company which pays the biggest dividends in the world. So he has two very strong financial backers now. So he doesn't care about money right now. His idea is that I don't need to export literally anything. I will build everything. We call it a full stack system. He wants to create a full stack system where the device that you use will be by Humane, the software that you use on it will be by Humane, the chip inside will be by Humane, everything from A to Z will be by Humane. And that's his idea of Humane.
I feel like that's the exact kind of self-sufficiency that countries need. That a place like Syria needs. And I mentioned Syria because you mentioned that point about aid. And I think that by Saudi Arabia doing this, it's so important because then their progress will not, either move or be halted depending on what Trump feels and what America feels and, how much they don't like China and how much they're afraid that the NVIDIA chips will reach China. I'm sure that you've all seen how NVIDIA has become the first company to hit $5 trillion. I think the fact that they're developing that kind of self-sufficiency, it is so impressive and it's so exciting.
Yeah, about China and Saudi Arabia and China, US. If you look at all of FII, it's very interesting, the geopolitics that entered it. So Donald Trump Jr. was talking to Richard Attias, and he has 1789, the company that invests in a lot of things. He said very good things about Saudi Arabia, but there was a point where he was constantly like, oh, China is trying this, China is trying this for a decade. He was completely anti-China sitting in Saudi Arabia. Then the next day, Saudi-China forum happens, and Saudi Arabia and China jointly sent out a statement that Saudi and China are best friends. So this all was happening in Saudi Arabia, and my opinion on this, or my reading of the room, was that US people came to malign China, to try to convince Saudi Arabia that don't do trade with them, try to put them down. And the Saudis were like, no, we will trade with you, we will do everything with you, we're building so many things with you, great, thank you so much, you're our friends, but China is also our friend. And then, after day 3 yesterday, and then Trump goes to China and Trump sign a deal. Finally, they're saying that no rare earth metals problems will be there. It was a very big problem that I faced in the stock market. I bought a lot of rare earth metal shares. Not financial advice, I'm just telling you a story that a lot of people were investing in rare earth metals, the US companies, because their shares skyrocketed. Because China was like, we're not sending you any rare earth metals, enjoy. And US was like, oh no, now we need to depend on our own companies. So their shares skyrocketed. And then Trump went on and signed a deal. So now China will provide, for 1 year, they're not doing any restrictions or bans on each other. And during that, coming back to FII and how this all shaped, China, they asked Trump about the Blackwell chips. They are like now the most advanced chips after H400s. So he was like, yeah, otherwise, NVIDIA can sell chips to China now, anything. But the most advanced chips will never be exported. So now China has access to H100s and H400s. Obviously, it takes a lot of time to sign the paperwork and get it into action. But now they can have access to the most advanced H400s, but not the Blackwells. So he's keeping just the best ones there, but he's like, anything else, take it.
But imagine just
It's
on
so
that-
interesting whatever is happening in the world, right?
That topic of what you mentioned, the geopolitics of what's it called, Donald Trump Jr. being there. I just want to mention that I think it's important to consider the fact that the Saudis, they have a really good playing card here.
Yeah.
During Trump's
Sarah
first-
Al-Tamimi agrees with you. She
During
says
Trump's-
Saudi will be one of the greatest nations. Wait for it.
No, but it's true though, because in 2017, during Donald Trump's first presidency, his first foreign visit was to Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia, where he met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and there, I believe that they signed deals worth over $300 billion. And I remember Trump specifically saying,
With Saudi?
This is like, yeah, I don't
Saudi
remember.
was 600
I think
billion.
it wa- no,
Yeah.
back in 2017.
Oh,
he
that
was like,
one, yeah.
and I remember he was sitting there and he was like, Salman, this is like peanuts for you.
Yeah.
And then he comes back this year, 2025, and this year Saudi Arabia invests $600 billion with Donald Trump. And, I don't know how fast that money arrives to Trump or how quickly it goes, but you can clearly see the level of importance that Saudi Arabia has to Trump. Remember that speech that he had when he was in the White House where he said the U.S. announced that we want to have our own sovereign wealth fund. We want to be like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And I remember he mentioned
Maybe better
PIF
than
there.
them.
Exactly. So I think what's happening here is that I know that they're trying to diversify away from oil, but oil is not a bad thing. I think that most of their wealth, firstly, came from oil, and it's caused them to be such a powerful nation in the world, and they have a lot of cards to choose from, and I think that's the best kind of thing.
And oil right now, to be honest, is doing very badly. So their diversification efforts, not only them, I think UAE, Qatar, everyone's diversification efforts are paying off. The good idea is that they didn't sit on oil. They were like, okay, we have oil, great, best thing that we have on the planet, which is used for every industry. But we'll make money out of it. So they took a lot of time, made money out of it. And now, since they have a lot of money, they're like, now we can do whatever we want. And that's the power of capital that we always see in the Middle East. We've been seeing it for like last 4 or 5 years. But that's the power. They didn't just sit on oil. I was telling her, we were talking about that Yasser Al-Rumayyan talk with David Rubenstein. And even there, he said that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's vision was that oil is a curse, it's a poison. He said something. And he was like, why? Because if we sit on oil, our generation won't do anything. They'll be like, yeah, we have oil. We don't need to do innovation. We don't need to grow. We don't need to go into AI. So he's like, oil is a curse. And that is why our all strategies, even I think the 2040 plan, when we see it, when it finally comes, we have the Saudi Vision 2030 right now. As soon as it completes, Yasser Al-Rumayyan has given not even hints, he's stated it out clearly that we are building a Saudi Vision 2040. And as soon as that comes out, I'm 100% sure that the main focus will be AI. So before we move on, just got a message on the WhatsApp group for the FII thing. They've put out a press release. So just giving you numbers before we move on. There were 9,000 delegates. Delegates are paid delegates. And we've talked about it, that how it takes like $10,000 minimum to become a member of FII, Future Investment Institute. So 9,000 delegates, 2,000 members.
That's
60,
why they're considering an IPO.
Yeah, 60 strategic partners, 600 media representatives from 60 countries. That's important. Four of Augustus Media can be counted in those. And the interesting number is more than half of this year's speakers, 52%, came from the technology sector. So it shows they didn't talk about construction, infrastructure. They brought the best AI and tech guys to talk about what they're looking at as the next frontier. And 13 trillion value, just quickly reading it. And yeah, that's the highlights summary of FII 9.
And there was a big highlight that happened overnight, and I think that this one was slightly surprising for me. Saudi Arabia and the International Olympic Committee have officially ended their 12-year partnership to host the Olympic Esports Games in Riyadh. The deal announced during the 2024 Paris Olympics was meant to debut with the first ever Esports Olympics in 2027, but has now been dissolved by mutual agreement.
And the IOC confirmed the decision, stating both sides mutually agreed to end the cooperation but will continue pursuing their esports ambitions independently. The project was once positioned as a flagship component of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. We're just talking about it. It was a part of their strategy to expand expand into global sports and entertainment investments. They are doing it, but this is just one small setback.
And Saudi Arabia has rapidly become a powerhouse in global gaming, hosting the Esports World Cup in Riyadh and investing heavily in major studios. Now, in September, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund helped finance a $55 billion acquisition of Electronic Arts alongside partners, including a firm managed by Jared Kushner, Affinity Partners.
Yeah, and the Esports World Cup 2025 in Riyadh drew over 1,500 players from 100 countries competing across 25 games for a record-breaking $71.5 million prize pool. Titles such as Call of Duty and Counter-Strike featured prominently. Those are the best game for any sports World Cup. Games the IOC has historically avoided due to their violent content.
Now, despite the IOC split, Saudi Arabia is pressing ahead with major gaming events. Now, Riyadh is set to host the inaugural Esports Nations Cup in November 2026, where players represent their countries instead of clubs, with major game publishers, including Electronic Arts, Tencent, Krafton, and Ubisoft collaborating on its development. I see with this entire game, they didn't actually give us a reason for why it was canceled. But if I were to reckon and if I were to predict, I think it probably perhaps has to do with the stadium. Now, I know that for other sports games, they're actually meant to be hosted in Neom. I forgot which ones they were. They had specific names, but there's specific things that are meant to be hosted in Neom, and I think that's why there's so much pressure around Neom. It's because of the fact that in the future there are deadlines where they're meant to host games there. So I'm not sure the reasoning for why this happened. I mean, you know, they did say that now they're going to change. Well, it was an exclusive by Reuters that the fund PIF is going to redirect the fund into different sectors. So I'm not sure what the reasoning behind this is, but I think that it's okay. I don't really see it as a setback. I think it's good to be flexible and have priorities in this case.
Ray Saliba has commented crazy. We don't know which story you're talking about, but you can tell us, comment again and tell us what do you think is crazy. But what I see is very simple. IOC has a very different strategy, International Olympic Committee. The Esports World Cup, Saudi Arabia has been doing great without IOC's help. The last year they signed the deal and it was a 12-year deal that if the Olympics happen under the IOC flagship, Saudi Arabia will host it, and it was a 12-year deal. For 12 years, only Saudi will be the host. I think other countries who are big nations in gaming and esports, their problem would be like, why Saudi? You can do it in Korea. Korea is one of the biggest countries. Japan is one of the biggest countries. They have so many players and teams who represent at the world stage. Pakistan is very big in Tekken. Our Arslan Ash has won like the last 6 Tekken tournaments all over the world. He just became the 6th world champion for Evo Tekken tournament, which is the biggest prize pool and the biggest tournament in the world. So there's a lot of countries who would be like, we would want to host it also. So I think that's the main point. They have 2 separate visions. They came together. They maybe signed the deal and it was non-binding. And that is why you sign a non-binding deal so it doesn't affect you. Maybe they signed a non-binding deal last year, and then when they started talking about it, they realized that both have different visions. So Saudi has a very different vision, IOC has a different vision, and Saudi, to be honest, is doing great on its own. Giving a $71.5 million pool, the pool is like, it's not 75 billion to one team, it's a pool prize, but that's big, that's too big. Even the world's best championships that I've seen over the years, Dota and a lot of like single game tournaments, they go into millions, hardly 1-2 million prize pools. But this is massive. And them announcing the Nations Esports World Cup, it becomes bigger because now the teams don't compete. Now the nations compete. So they literally are forcing the biggest nations in the world to create national level teams. So it's not just that Saudi is gaining entertainment and all this revenue through entertainment. they're actually pushing other countries to make up systems so they can compete at that World Cup. And it's going to be a massive, massive event when it happens
And
next
I
year.
think Riyadh season is also doing such a great job.
Yeah.
I've really never seen such an event play out like that before in a Middle Eastern country. We just saw how recently they had that really famous tennis match that happened.
Six King Slam.
The Six King Slam, and we saw how the winner basically got $6 million. By the way, $1.5 million for just participating.
Yeah.
So all
I
the
would love to go there.
participants, they got $1.5 million. They streamed the entire thing on Netflix. And, right before it, you saw how Turki El-Sheikh was just meeting with these like global stars with Shah Rukh Khan and what's
All
it
the
called?
Khans, Shah Rukh, Salman and Amir,
And
all of them.
what's it called? The Squid Game actors and Speed and Mr. Beast. So, there's so much going on there. But just on the topic of, back to this topic again, that there's a video of El Rumayyan basically saying, Majid, that we, PIF, we do not make any investments that we cannot exit. And if we're not allowed to exit them, we make sure that we push for clauses to be there in which we can exit it if we see that this is not beneficial for us. So the fact that this has been canceled, it's telling you a lot. It's telling you that perhaps it was not beneficial for them. On the topic of NEOM, what I was saying about the games being hosted there, now the major sports event scheduled for NEOM in the future is actually the 2029 Asian Winter Games, which are expected to be held in the mountain destination of Trojena. So it's one of the beautiful parts of NEOM. There's already the NEOM Beach Games that are being hosted there. We also know that the World Cup in 2034, saying that name is so weird and saying that year, it's so futuristic and weird for me because it's so far away. But one of the 15 stadiums, I believe, are meant to be in NEOM, and it's specifically being built in NEOM for the games. And while I think that's a challenge, I think it's such an exciting challenge. It's going to be exciting to see how it looks.
It's just, I think with Saudi Arabia, they actually follow this theory that, for example, if I give you $100 to climb one floor of a building, and the building is 100 floors, maximum you can go till 100, right? They plan for a 1,000 floor building. So people actually push past the 100, and even if you reach like 200, 300 floors for $100 per floor, you still do better than that 100 building. So aiming as big, as far in the future, and as optimistically as possible, that is their plan. And then even if they achieve 50% of that or 30% of that, they're still doing better than just planning very realistically, very frugantly, like no.
Like a traditional budget.
Yeah, so that is their plan. They just want to do things which are exceptional, never been done. And sometimes there is setbacks because maybe sometimes technology hasn't caught up to their plan. Because on paper, sometimes some things work, but when you actually go out and try to get the operational things that you need, logistical things that you need, technology that you need, machinery that you need, you don't have it. So at least having a plan, and as soon as that machine comes, you start building. So they are ready with all the plans. They're just waiting for everything to fall into place, the technological part, the operational part, logistics part, everything. So that way, I love their plans, but PIF is a giant, to be honest. We only talk about NEOM always. People, actually, the West always highlights NEOM. They don't look at the other investments that they've made throughout the world. They're part of Harrods now. They're part of so many things. They're part of airlines. They're part of literally everything that you can think of, or any big economy in Europe, in Africa, even in Asia. They're part of it somehow.
They have a lot of, by the way, contractors in Africa. I remember I went for this event, and when I spoke to them, they said that one of the biggest projects that they're working on with the largest contracts was in NEOM. And I was completely surprised, and I'm like, oh my God, please tell me more. And when they told me more, they said that no, it's 100% happening. It's been in the works for a while.
Imagine, I think I told the story, you were not on the show, it was Jitex North Star story. Parth was there, I told him. I met a guy at Expand North Star, and I told him that one guy I met there actually got a NEOM contract for just water dispensers. Imagine.
You told me the story.
Yeah, you were there, I think, then. Just water dispensers. So everyone is getting something out of NEOM. So the people who are actually working with NEOM, they don't complain. They're like, the payments are on time. everything that we are told that if you have to put something in March, we go there and we put it in March and they're happy with it. So the work is on time, the payments are on time. I don't know what the problem of the world is with it. Even if they achieve 40-50% of the whole
honestly,
NEOM project, I'm fine with it.
I think what happened with NEOM Majid is because of the fact that they had a CEO transition.
Yeah.
They had a new CEO that had to come in. And also because of the fact that it was announced, it was specifically announced that the line, how long it was, I believe, was reduced.
It was 1 kilometer long, the
yeah.
whole project.
They're
Sorry,
now
10 kilometer.
Yeah, they're
and
now
they're building
reducing
1
the
kilometer
target,
only.
and then right after that we hear about Al Arabia, and they go get a first look at NEOM.
Yeah.
And I even saw this video somewhere where basically all the engineers working on the site, they're working in these small cubicles and it just honestly, like, it looks so like sci-fi. Absolutely, like it's so strange, it's so Orwellian, but I believe it. But we'll talk about NEOM more at the end because they're basically reconsidering budgets. But just to move on, Abu Dhabi's international holding company has completed the sale of its entire 42.54% stake in Modon Holding to Al Ahmad Holding Company. Now, the transaction marks the largest in the UAE market history and comes as part of IHC's ongoing strategy to diversify its portfolio across high-growth sectors.
And the sale aligns with IHC's sector concentration framework, which limits exposure to 20% per sector. So they don't want to own more than that. By reducing its real estate weighting, the company will redeploy liquidity into fastest growing industries. Basically, they're taking the money out and putting it somewhere else. And somewhere else is healthcare, technology, energy, and food security. They want to reinforce their position as a global multi-sector investment powerhouse.
Now, IHC said the move reflects its disciplined capital management approach, aiming to maintain balance across geographies and industries. The company continues to focus on scalable opportunities that deliver sustainable long-term value to its shareholders as part of its broader strategy to strengthen financial resilience amid global market shifts.
Founded in 1999 and chaired by His Highness Sheikh Tahnoon Sheikh Tahnoon bin Zayed Al Nahyan, IHC has grown from $1 billion to $119 billion in assets by mid-2025, and under Syed Basar Shoaib, he's the CEO, becoming one of Abu Dhabi's most influential and diversified investment conglomerates. I wouldn't say one of, it is the most influential and diversified investment conglomerates.
Now, the sale follows IHC's recently announced plan to merge 2.0 Multiply Group and Ghiza Holding into a next-generation 120 billion dirham investment entity. But just to talk about international holding companies' entire strategy in general, there was this recent exclusive piece by the Financial Times that was great, that was published, and it was with the CEO of IHC, Bashar. And Majid, first of all, this man basically said that I will go to the grave making sure that IHC grows its assets. But second, he said something really interesting. These guys, they have a really specific strategy. They have something where every single 18 months, specifically, they want to free up 8%. Basically, 8 to 10% of whatever they've invested in, they proceed to sell it. And what that does is that it frees up $10 billion for them, and it allows them to make a $36 billion investment, to be specific. And that's how Bashar basically said that they're growing their assets. They make sure that every single 18 months, without fail, they free up like 7 to 10% of stake, and then they proceed to put it in another investment. And Majid, the reason why I think that this is so important, to some people that this might just sound like a simple buy and sell, but it's so important because I think in the kind of world that we live in now, market volatility is so expected. If you think about it, in a while ago, the Saudis would have never expected that the price of oil per barrel would go down. We live in a very volatile modern market now where so many changes are coming. You have new investments that investors are gravitating towards. So it's important that actually every single 18 months, they can look at the new market change. What are people buying? What are people looking at? And they can just gravitate towards it. And I think that that form of flexibility, it's something so interesting. I'm not even sure if it has a specific name.
I would call it day trading, which a lot of people do. It's just the idea that their research work is too good. Because if they're thinking of exiting any company after 18 months, they are making a profit. They would never come out of it in with losing money. So if they invested 100 million into a company, if they stay 18 months there, I hope they're coming out with at least the market rate of 7 to 8% profit. Globally throughout, if you talk about stock markets, any kind of investment, if an investment gives you 7 to 8% returns, which is the S&P global standards, all the global standards say 7 to 8% is the best. 10% is astronomical. You're doing great if you get 10% out of it. So I think their idea is invest 18 months, at least it should be 6, 7, good if 10%. Take that money out, use it to invest in something else. Because the market volatility thing that you're talking about, it's too unpredictable right now. One more example before we move on. Sorry, I've been having a lot of losses recently, but yesterday actually, on 29th October and 30th October, the big four of the US equity market, who control nearly how many? The quarter of the market. So if it's a $100 billion market, they control 25 billion out of it. Nvidia not. Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, and Meta. All four of them came up with their earnings report. Google and their parent company Alphabet. Only Alphabet, and all four of them are working in AI. They're all investing crazy amount of billions of dollars into AI. Only Alphabet's share rose because Alphabet didn't talk about their AI. And Meta, they were like, yeah, we're spending so much on AI, blah, blah, blah. Shares fell nearly 20%. I had a heart attack nearly. But Microsoft, with OpenAI, they said, oh, AI, we're doing this. The investors were like, sorry, thank you. So 3 big companies in the world, when they talked about AI, people pulled out their money. Because they were like, you're investing too much into AI now. Alphabet talked about their cash flow. They were like, we have a lot of cash and we have a lot of money now to spend. We're not spending all of that into AI, but we have a lot of money and now we're thinking of planning where to go. So it shows you that everything that we see right now on the surface level, it's very easy, like, oh, invest in AI. Invest in anything AI.
Honestly, Majid,
but
I
the market sentiment.
I don't think my risk
about.
tolerance can handle AI either, because we're not actually seeing something concrete come back to us. We're not seeing an actual concrete result, and I think what you're saying, Majid, I think that this is evidence of the fact that a lot of people are still conservative about AI, and that people are still gravitating towards your traditional investments. Wow, I'm gonna go look into that more, but just to wrap up the show with the final topic of the day, sources told Reuters that...
We'll come back to the first part. It kept scrolling. We'll start from the start, no problem.
What essentially happened is that Reuters, in an exclusive, has reported that Saudi Arabia is planning to shift its $925 billion public investment fund away from its heavy focus on real estate gigaprojects. This is what we were talking about earlier. Now, the move would mark a major strategic reset for Vision 2030, steering towards sectors that promise more immediate and sustainable returns, such as logistics and tourism.
And Reuters reports that the planned shift comes after the repeated delays and cost challenges at projects like NEOM. The new strategy is expected to emphasize investments in logistics, mineral exploration, and religious tourism, while scaling back the pace of large-scale construction developments that have yet to yield significant financial returns.
Now, sources told Reuters that the upcoming core strategy will prioritize high-growth sectors, including artificial intelligence, data centers, and mining. The plan also reflects pressure on PIF to deliver strong near-term results and rebalance exposure away from capital-heavy projects that have dominated Saudi Arabia's development agenda for nearly a decade.
And Reuters added that the new approach will align with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's push to make Saudi Arabia a global logistics and technology hub. PIF-owned firm Humane is expected to play a key role in the transition, with plans to develop roughly 6 gigawatts of data center capacity.
And PIF's 5-year investment plan is set to conclude this year with a revised roadmap expected soon, Reuters said. The fund, which posted an average annual return of 7.2% between 2017 and 2024, aims to balance long-term ambition with fiscal discipline as global economic conditions remain uncertain. And that's a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Smashi Business Show. Make sure to follow us across all social media channels at Smashi Business, and stay ahead with our daily newsletter. You'll find the subscription link in the description.
Thank you to Ujjwal, thank you to Kirby, thank you to Millie looking at us from the back of the studio. And thank you, Sasha, for taking a picture of us. And this has been a Smashi Business Show, a Smashi Business production, part of the Augustus Media Podcast Network. A big shout out to our more than 2 million monthly listeners across all platforms. You make this possible. We have a Smashi Crypto page now. It's on Instagram. We have a newsletter which goes out on Monday and Friday. So if you've not subscribed to it, go look for Smashi Crypto and you'll find the link in the bio for the newsletter. Subscribe to it. Get all the news from the world of crypto on Monday and Friday. And we have a Smashi Crypto show as well. It's an AI show. We are very open about it. It's done on 11 Labs and ChatGPT and whatever generative AI software I can use. And it's published through Podio on a lot of platforms.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.